Yeah. What's up, everybody? That's right. Here we are, April 7th, 2024. The Boxing Source podcast is here. And, we got, one major event that happened last night, that we're going to go over. We had a little bit of stuff that was going on after the fight there in Las Vegas that we're seeing if we're going to be able to touch on that here a little bit. And then, if there's like any other things that, it might, drop here, on this podcast, I'll go ahead and go for it here at this point. But it was pretty much like a little bit of activity there in the boxing world. Of course, we had the fights that went on in Las Vegas. We got some action that's going to be coming up next week, and then it leads up to April 20th with of course Devin Haney defending the WBC super lightweight title against Ryan Garcia in Brooklyn, New York. So we're looking towards that. But just going through a lot of the action here in April. It's going to be a fairly busy month here in April, leading into May. And of course, May has a lot of high profile matchups that will be coming up for fight fans to enjoy. But, I want to get into this joint here with, what happened last night, main event that was on this own Matchroom boxing event. Richardson Hitchins versus Gustavo Lemos. Both fighters coming in this thing undefeated. You had, Hitchens in there 17-0. You had Gustavo Lemos in there 29-0. And I kind of like pointed out in this upcoming bout that I wanted to see Richardson Hitchins be very impressive in this particular bout. Kind of like show that he, at the time, he was a pretty sizable favorite against Gustavo Lemos. He was a pretty sizable favorite against Gustavo Lemos. And that, I wanted to see him be impressive and kind of like show that, okay, if this is going to be an eliminator or a title eliminator, that he needs to show that he is a serious contender out there in the 140-pound division, right? You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, I wanted him to be out there and have an impressive performance there against Gustavo Lemos, because even though Gustavo Lemos was there at 29-0, like the majority of those bouts, pretty much like a sizable amount of those bouts, took place over in Argentina. But sometimes you have a number of Argentinian fighters in the past that some of us have heard about that have eventually become world champions, that have been very good fighters in the past. Of course you have Marcos Maidana, you have Sergio Martinez. I don't know if Sergio Martinez is still active or not, but I think he had a fight last year. But a few other fighters you probably name out there from Argentina that have been either very competitive fighters or been world champions. And so Gustavo Lemos, with this being his first bout over in the U.S., like he wanted to definitely make an impression here to see if he'll be able to get a win, get an upset, and then move forward to get a world title shot. But going up against Richardson Hitchins, who was a very skilled fighter, had like an Olympic background and everything like that. Very polished when it comes to offense. But we hadn't really seen much from him up to this point from the defensive part. But we definitely saw it here in this bout against Gustavo Lemos, and we saw it early. And the thing about it is that with Richardson Hitchins, he has a great jab. He has a great jab when he's able to be forceful with it and send a message and not be redundant with it. You know what I'm saying? Because in this fight against Gustavo Lemos, he wanted to establish the jab early. But he, was going at it upstairs. He didn't really mix it up that much until about a few rounds after the fight was, going on. And so with Gustavo Lemos, he was there short at 5'5", going up against Richardson Hitchins at 5'10", but he kind of like had the bob and weave style. He kept his hands up, was moving his head and just trying to get to the inside of Richardson Hitchins. So with Hitchins, early, he was throwing the jab and was very sharp with the jab. But if it wasn't, really affecting Lemos, Lemos was trying to get to the inside and then just throw hooks and uppercuts and punches to the body and try to, hit the land the right hand up top. And you've seen that early, particularly in the first 2 rounds, that you've seen Gustavo Lemos be successful at times there, landing the right hand on Richardson Hitchins. Now, some of them, kind of like were missing. He was like, whiffing on a good number of those shots. But when they did land, it looked like it was a significant punch that landed on Richardson Hitchins. So, for the early parts of the fight, you probably seen like some people like say, hey, Gustavo Lemos kind of like took these rounds with landing these, power shots or whatever it is. But on the flip side, you have Richardson Hitchins, like I said, being well established with a jab, sometimes mixing it up in some of the rounds, like after round 3 or something like that, and being more accurate with the number of the shots that he was throwing. So, it kind of like said, like, okay, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the come forward style of Gustavo Lemos, trying to make the most out of, getting to the inside of Richardson Hitchins, or the precision from Richardson Hitchins when it came to the offense? Now, on the defensive side with Hitchens, you kind of like seen him. He was backing himself up to the ropes, continually backing up to the ropes, not really, making Gustavo Lemos pay for coming up to the inside, and trying to like throw punches to the body, throw hooks to the body, throw an uppercut, and things like that. He was just more inclined to try to tie up Gustavo Lemos, particularly in the midpoint of the fight, and I think that kind of, hurt things a little bit there for Richardson Hitchins as far as like trying to separate from Gustavo Lemos in, the eventual scorecards that like came out there, so to speak. But, some of y'all know what happened with the scorecards, but, I had my thing in reference to it. I just felt like, for the majority of the fight, it was more about Richardson Hitchins trying to keep the distance away from Gustavo Lemos. And, at times, Lemos was successful getting to the inside, working the body, either cornering or getting Hitchens to the ropes. But sometimes with Hitchens, he was like voluntarily getting himself to the ropes. Like he was like backing up when he didn't really need to back up. And there were times where, either it was like early in the fight where he could be to the ropes and then just switch out and, just get out of the ropes to prevent Lemos from getting his offense off. But once he like kind of like got deeper into the fight, you kind of like seen Richardson Hitchins get a little bit tired and just start grabbing and holding. He was just grabbing and holding, right? He wasn't working the inside. He wasn't like, if he had a free hand, he wasn't working a free hand that often. He was just more inclined to hold Gustavo Lemos instead of, just working the offense. Now, the thing about it is that with Lemos, like I was saying, he was more about, getting to the inside and just throwing hooks, landing big hooks, uppercuts, power shots, and everything like that. Like he didn't come in with a high guard and just lead with a jab and, lead with a jab and then come in with the hook or, try to, set up Richardson Hitchins, because at times Hitchens, with his jab hand, his left hand, he'll throw out the jab, but then when he comes back with his hand low, which opened up the right hand for Gustavo Lemos to land. So you've seen that often over the course of the 12 rounds there between Richardson Hitchins and Gustavo Lemos, right? And so that kind of like made the fight look really close over the course of this fight. Like you've seen it particularly, for the first 8 rounds or so. I kind of like felt like it was a very close fight through 8 rounds. For me, up through 8 rounds, I had actually Richardson Hitchins up 5 rounds to 3. But, some people could have said like it could have been 4 rounds to 4 at that point or 5 rounds to 3 in favor of Gustavo Lemos. Just depending on what you preferred in this type of a fight or, this style of a fight. Is that, did you prefer the come forward style of Gustavo Lemos, or did you prefer the, precision punching there from Richardson Hitchins? You know what I'm saying? Big ups live for Lonnie Lee, #JBT, Just Boxing Talk, man. It was good with you. You just in early here on the Boxing Source podcast, just going over this Richardson Hitchins versus Gustavo Lemos, man. I thought it was a fight with two contrasting styles. Of course, with Hitchens, having, like I said, the Olympic background, Olympic pedigree, amateur pedigree. Just tag and move, stick and move. Boxing and moving, trying to hit, not get hit. With Gustavo Lemos on the other side, just being a come forward style bull, try to get to the inside, try to work the inside and things like that. So, I think it was a good matchup in styles, especially for Richardson Hitchins. Given that thing right there. Yeah, man, I was out there at the highest, bro. Of course, Tallahassee, Riverside graduate, FAMU, all that. Yep. Yeah, that was me. You know what I'm saying? I was out there in the South Side Tallahassee for a good little bit, before going out to fam for a little. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, back to the joint there with the style matchups. The thing with Lemos though, he kind of surprised me a little bit with the styles though. He kind of surprised me with the style and how he was able to approach Richard Hitchins. But I think on the flip side, maybe Hitchens just didn't have much experience dealing with that type of a style. You know what I'm saying? And that thing, man. Big ups to Joe Heron up here of the World Week Boxing. He said he scored at 7-5 in favor of Lemos. But he also was saying leading into this particular fight that, the odds were like, really, just too, wide, whatever it is, large, whatever it is, in favor of Richardson Hitchins. And he felt like, it was going to be a very close fight going into the fight. So, props to Joe for like kind of calling it because, I didn't really see it, man. I just felt like it was something where I felt like Hitchins was going to, be able to style on Gustavo Lemos going into this bout. I just felt like it was just more about him trying to make a statement towards him, like stamping his name as a serious contender there in the super lightweight division and saying like, okay, we know that you have somebody like Subriel Matias as an IBF champion. This is like an IBF eliminator. Let me just show that not only am I the could be the top contender there in the IBF, but I really have a shot to defeat Subriel Matias. But, given this style that you've seen here in this fight, there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done there on Richard Hitchens' camp, to kind of like deal with that. Yeah, Matias is, of course, much taller than Gustavo Lemos, but he still has a come forward style, number one. And number two, he'll just say, you know what, I'll allow my opponent to land 2 or 3 shots or whatever it is. As long as I get my 1 or 2, I'm gonna take those shots, and eventually I'm gonna break my opponent down, and then I'm gonna end up stopping them. That's usually been the style there for Subriel Matias over his past few fights. And so the thing there with Hitchens, having the style that he had here against Gustavo Lemos, against someone like Subriel Matias, yeah, I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that if that's going to work. But yeah, back to the fight though. I felt like it took like a while for Hitchens to kind of like mix up his offense. You really didn't see that that many power punches out there from Hitchens. You didn't see that many uppercuts from Hitchens until what was it, like round 9 or round 10, or at least after like round 8, because I think round 8 was a big round for Gustavo Lemos because he had a great start for like the first minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then you saw Richard Hitchens kind of like get back into it, landing left hooks or landing the right hand, throwing the uppercut and landing the uppercut, and then in the following round you've seen that a little bit more from Richard Hitchens. But early, I mean, we could have saw that early where if you wanted to try to get in those power shots against Gustavo Lemos, especially with him being a smaller fighter, yeah, throw the uppercut. You're not gonna be able to sometimes land that shot with the jab to the head, especially if Lemos is very early, was moving his head around. So you're gonna have to go to the body and go to the body early. and you didn't really see it that much there from Richardson Hitchins. It just happened, over the course of the fight, and then he mixed it up a little bit more later on down the line there. But for Lemos, he kind of like stuck with that game plan for the majority of the fight. He slowed down a bit after that eighth round, where he had a very very big round, and it was like something where it was like seriously in the favor of Gustavo Lemos there for that eighth round. But then in the ninth and the 10th round, you kind of like seen Lemos slow down a little bit. And that was kind of like the opportunity where you see Richardson Hitchins get back into it. Like I said, mix up his offense a little bit more, but still, keep that style of, working off of the jab and establishing the jab to, keep Lemos away from him. But then in the 11th and 12th round, you seen Lemos kind of like get a second wind of sorts, you know what I mean? And when he did, you kind of like seen him back in that style of the bob and weave, moving his head around a little bit, crouching low, getting low, to make, his 5'5" frame be even, lesser. Like he was almost like 5'3" going down there against Richardson Hitchins, who's, like I said, is at 5'10", and if you're not going to be, throwing punches downward or down to the body, especially when you have like the reach advantage or you have good spacing, then it's not going to work. Just just sitting up there, just throwing the left jab and not following up with anything behind that with the right hand. So you kind of like seen a very very close round there in the 11th round, and then the 12th round you've seen both guys go at it there a little bit. Ended up being a pretty good fight. Went to the scorecards. And the scorecards there read what was it? 115, 113 twice, and a 117, 111 score in favor of Richardson Hitchins. Now, the thing with me, I kind of like gauged it as, the style with Hitchins and what he was able to do as far as like establishing the jab, being more accurate with a lot of the shots that he was throwing, and getting Lemos to miss a number of those shots. But I kind of felt like it was more about like a 7-5 or 8-4 in favor of Richardson Hitchins, because I had like 5-3, 5 rounds of 3, after 8 rounds, and I pretty much like had, what was it, 10, 11. Yeah, it was like 10 and 11 in favor of Hitchens there. So that was like 7 rounds right there. So it was more about like, whatever you had taking the 12th round. I think you could have leaned towards Lemos getting the 9th round as well. But that would kind of like give Lemos 4 rounds at least, through 9. So that was the thing about it. But you could still, see it where it could be 7-5 in favor of Lemos if you preferred his come forward style, where he was able to work, on the inside, particularly in the first half of the fight, where you seen Hitchens kind of like back up to the ropes. Like I said, he voluntarily backed up to the ropes a lot over the course of this fight, number one. And then number two, there were like a couple of rounds where you seen Richardson Hitchens, while like he didn't have enough energy to like either try to throw counters or whatever it was, he was just holding, he was holding a lot. And that kind of like showed me that, he still has a lot to work on when it comes to, establishing the distance against fighters that are, much shorter than him, being able to, throw some serious counter punches when fighters miss. Because like I said, you had times when Gustavo Lemos was like missing widely or, whiffing with the hooks, with the right hooks. And then you didn't see Richardson Hitchins follow up with the counter shot. I mean, there are times where you got to be like, yo, okay, I know where he's coming forward. He's coming forward, trying to land that right hand. So either, I'm gonna, lean back or just bob back and miss and then end it kind of with the right hand, or I'm gonna just leave my left hand up or whatever it is and then counter with the right or something, or do a catch and shoot. and you didn't see that there with Richardson Hitchins. So I kind of like expected a little bit more, out of there from Richardson Hitchins, at least in this particular case. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, Hitchens was able to get through this bout. Uh, was able to get a unanimous decision. Has a lot to work on, here in these next few months or so, because of course you got the IBF champion there, Subriel Matias, that has an upcoming fight there against Liam Parrow that's scheduled for the summer there in Puerto Rico. So he'll have some time to kind of like gauge what he was doing here in this particular fight, and then after that, then we'll see. But like I said, with this potential matchup between Hitchens and Matias, right? We gotta see a little bit more out of Hitchens, man. I might say, like, you know what, he might have to take another fight in the interim here before he gets that particular shot there. I don't know, man. I know my guy Joe's listening now, and he did have a great interview on his channel there with our guy Demetrius Salita, and Salita's one of Salita's fighters there. Shojan Ergachev, did have a fight against Subriel Matias last year, where he ended up getting stopped due to an injury. But he's had a comeback fight, here recently that was over in Detroit. So I'm like saying, hey, I don't know, maybe if Shojan wants to get, back in the mix, hey, really, really quick, you know what? That could be a good fight. Ergachev there against Richardson Hitchins, man. Hey, especially, if you see what happens there with Hitchens, and you see him, he really doesn't have that much, I would say knockout power, but he does have like some stinging power with the number of his shots, particularly with his jab, so that would be a good matchup right there. That would be a good matchup. You know what I'm saying? To have Richardson Hitchens there against Shojan Ergachev. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like what I think about that. That particular bout. But I give props to Gustavo Lemos though. He had a very, very good performance in this bout. He kind of like showed how much experience he has overall, especially dealing with taller fighters like Hitchens, and being able to move around the ring and do the things that he is able to do there, particularly over the first half of the fight. You know what I mean? And then having that second win there, probably like around round 10 and 11 and things like that. He went back to that bob and weave type of a style. So that's why I kind of like say like Hitchens has to work on mixing up his offense a little bit, particularly if he's going to be facing fighters much shorter than him, like Gustavo Lemos was. But as far as like a Matias though, yeah, I don't know if he's quite ready yet for someone like Matias. Like I said, Matias, 20 wins, just one loss, and every one of his wins by way of knockout or basically stoppage there. And he has his upcoming bout against Liam Parrow here in a couple months. So if he gets through that fight and defends that IBF belt, and then maybe has that another Mando. I don't know if the IBF is going to call it that Mando there, just that quick, but it's going to be a year, whatever it is. So we'll see how that goes. Big ups, man. We got a great panelist here that's going to be joining us here. Of course, coming from the ATL, the boxing academic is in the building, man. What's happening with you?
Hey, what's going on tonight, JR?
Oh, chill mode, man. Chill mode. We had, what was going down on the zone, man. Just went through that main event. I kind of like felt like the scores, or at least one of the scores, was fairly wide. 9 rounds to 3 in favor of Richardson Hitchins, and then 2 judges had like 7 rounds to 5 in favor of Hitchens there in that bout against Gustavo Lemos. I mean, I felt like it was close. Matias 7.5. Either way, kind of like lean it towards like a 7.5, 8.4 in favor of Hitchens. But I just felt like there were still a number of things that Hitchens has to work with in order to become more of a polished fighter there. So not sure what your assessment of that fight was.
Yeah, Hitchens definitely have a strong jab. His jab was like he was pretty purposeful for shooting out a power jab, and to some extent that kept the other guy at bay when he was using the jab. But then there were times where he just kind of he stopped jabbing, and then things got closer and shots got closer, shots started landing, and he got tired as well too, and the fight became more exciting. But when he was pumping that jab out, the dude, it was a totally different fight. It was just like a different sort of theme, a different disposition, a different mentality in the fight. And once he wasn't doing that and he was tired and stuff, and obviously toward the end, last 2-3 rounds, he was just trying to like survive because he felt like he was up on the cards. And he obviously was, but how does he fare against the other guys? I don't know. I think he obviously need to get his win together. But he looked good, for the most part. It's just when he reached that plateau, it was just like he reached a cliff and fell off it and just was just trying to just hang on for dear life.
Yeah.
Which he did. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
He ain't a quitter per se. Like he's not. I mean, he could have like packed it in, right? He could have like not tried or felt like it was too much for him, but he didn't do that. So even when he was tired, he still sort of did what he needed to do to just survive the encounter. And even that, sometimes you got to do that. But obviously he need to work on being able to finish a 10-round fight, looking good, because, the top echelon ain't gonna get tired like that. Maybe outside of Matias, because I don't know if we've seen him necessarily. How many 12-round fights did he have? Or 10, 12-round fights?
Or for Hitchens?
Matias.
Oh, Matias. It's been a good amount of them, man. At least 4, 5.
Oh, okay. 5. Well, look at that. Maybe I need to go and watch him a little bit more. I've seen maybe a couple of them.
I mean, they've been scheduled for 12, but the Dadashev fight went 11 rounds, and but he's been like in a 10-round bout, but that was like his lone loss to Ananyan there before he was able to advance that one. But like a lot of the fights that he's had, it's been like 6 rounds or 5 rounds or something like that, particularly recently.
Yeah, and then he looked like weird, like he got tired in certain fights too.
In some of them he did, but it's more of like other ones he just eventually just broke down a lot of them. Like that Malik Hawkins fight, that one, like he just beat down Malik Hawkins in that one. You know what I'm saying? And the Yukumbaya fight, he did very well in that one too in 2021. So it's just more about how if you got somebody that's a good mover. How was Subriel Matias like, fare against that? Like, I would like to see like how his ring, like him cutting off the ring, how his skills are with that, because he'll come forward, but it's more about like, okay, if you got a good mover or somebody like say for example a Devin Haney, I'm not even just a Richardson Hitchins, but like a Devin Haney who has a good gauge of moving around the ring very well. Like, how would Subriel Matias like fare against that as far as like trying to cut off the ring?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Big ups to Joe on here. He says, what he said, he wants to see the winner of Haney versus Ryan face Lemos, Pitbull, or Matias. Like, yeah, I think the winner of that will probably go for a unification bout, especially if it's Devin Haney. He's going to go for a unification bout. He says Lemos has better technique than Matias. Hey, as far as like coming forward and trying to get to his opponent, yeah, I think so. I think he has like a little bit of better defense when it comes to like keeping the hands up and trying to get to his opponent and then working on the inside than Matias does, because you see Matias get tagged a lot there over the first few rounds or so against a number of his opponents there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Yo, I don't know what this joint is all about. Yo, I don't know what that's all about. But yeah, so
at least 140 is is better than it was yesteryear.
Yeah, kind of in a sense. I mean, you did have the whole joint where you had an eventual, undisputed champion there in Josh Taylor. So you had the Josh Taylors, you had the Regis Prograis, you had Jose Ramirez.
But that crop of fighters wasn't that they was alright. They wasn't that great.
Wasn't that great? Okay, yeah. So,
but now it's hot. With all these people who were hotter at the lower weight, they at this weight now. So if they actually fight, it's gonna be some good fights.
Yeah. So I mean, you like I said, you're gonna see this thing here with Haney and Ryan mixing it up here in a couple weeks. You got, like I said, Subriel Matias has a defense coming up. You got the newly crowned champion there, and Isaac Cruz. And then we got it. Well, yeah, Teofimo Lopez supposedly has a bout schedule, but a lot of people are disappointed in the opponent that was chosen there for Teofimo Lopez. So we'll see how that goes there.
Who's the opponent?
Man, shoot, I had the joint up here, man. Shoot, wait, I gotta go in the rankings. I'll pull up the rankings here real quick. And Steve Claggett, I think, is the opponent that they were kind of like saying that was going to be the man to face Teofimo Lopez.
What has been Lopez's? I'm sorry for cutting you off.
I was like, Steve Claggett was like ranked number 13 in the WBO, so yeah. That's kind of like going, that's kind of like reaching, you know what I'm saying?
What has been Lopez's level of fighters in the last 4 or 5 fights?
Ooh, I don't know, man.
Does he deserve a break? Because I'm saying, has he not fought? I don't know.
So he has to win over Josh Taylor to become the WBO and like the lineal champion there, right? And then after that is Jermaine Ortiz, and then he has the Sandor Martin fight. So that's basically been his fights at 140 pounds so far.
Okay. So they ain't like
Yeah, like they ain't it's not standing out or whatever it is, but it's not like you're seeing them going up against like Barbosa or like Jose Carlos Ramirez, but we can't really get those type of fights now because both Barbosa and Ramirez basically left Top Rank, so it'll be some time before we probably see Teofimo Lopez in a pretty high profile fight. But I'm thinking if Devin Haney is able to fight and win against Ryan Garcia, especially in impressive fashion, then we could see Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez. And there's kind of like been hints that Devin Haney is going to have a couple of fights against top ranked fighters, after this bout against Ryan Garcia. So we'll see how that goes, with all that.
Is this Devin's break fighting Ryan Garcia? Because I mean, if out of everybody, he the one who been taking like at least like, before they start, they look like tests.
And he's building his profile. He did that in the 135 pound division, and now with the thing here with 140, but he has the bout against Regis Prograis, but a lot of people have criticized Regis Prograis, particularly with the performance that he had before he fought Devin Haney against Daniel Zorilla. So they were like, beating Regis Prograis, it's like, it is what it is. And then now here against, Ryan Garcia, now it's more about, okay, how is he going to perform against Ryan Garcia? And if he has a great performance against Ryan Garcia, then hey, some people are gonna say like, hey, this could be, the guy there, man. Salute the Juice here in the building live on the YouTube, and props for everyone that's watching on YouTube and on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. Hit the support by hitting the like button, share, and then you can also subscribe to the channel on YouTube or whatever it is, man, to support the boxing coverage that we provide here on the Boxing Source, man. But yeah, that 140-pound division now, like you were saying, is looking a little bit better than it was beforehand, because we got a number of these fighters there at 140 that were really good and could be some serious contenders to be eventually like either at the top of the division or be very competitive there. So we got to see how it shapes out. I mean, Josh Taylor, you say Josh Taylor is still out there supposedly, but he had that what was it, the rematch that he was supposed to have, and that ended up getting postponed anyway. So we got to see how he gets through that rematch that he has scheduled there against Jack Catterall. They rescheduled it to, it's supposed to be May 25th. So if he gets through that and then still competes there at 140, then he could be a name that could be right back in the mix at 140. I just feel like he needs to still be there at like 147, because I think he's pretty much like done what's left to be done out there. You know what I mean?
You don't think against the right style he'll be all right? Like a flat-footed person, he'll look a lot better.
I mean, he'll look a lot better, but like he already faced what was it, Jose Ramirez, who's kind of like flat-footed there, but like how would he fare against like a Matias? How would he fare against the Subriel Matias? That would kind of like be interesting to see there.
Wouldn't he be the one throwing more punches in that fight?
To start off with, I would say yeah.
To start off with, okay.
Yeah. Off with, yeah. But after a while, if like I said with Matias, he has that come forward style. If he's able to take your punches in order to land some of his own, he'll just wear you down. It's almost like, I was gonna say it was like Peterbia, but Peterbia is a much more skilled fighter than Subriel Matias, like waves over Matias when it comes to skill. So but I mean, he kind of like breaks down his opponents as well, just like Matias does. You know what I'm saying? But it's just with but Beterbiev, he's almost like on another level at times. You know what I'm saying? What they have there on the co-feature bout, was also something that I was kind of like focusing on there, and that was with Diego Pacheco against Sean McCollum. That was like another fight with two undefeated fighters there in a super middleweight division. And the thing with that one, Pacheco was able to get the unanimous decision win over Sean McCollum, with one score of 98-92, score of 97-93, and a score of 96-94. But I think also there, you kind of like seeing Pacheco, have a few other things there that he had to work with as well. But the thing with McCollum wasn't that he was able to like take some punches, but he was being competitive at times, but he was also able to push around Diego Pacheco there over the course of the fight. Now there were times where he kind of like used his shoulder and was like kind of emphasizing the shoulder push basically there, but you kind of like seen like with this like base, he had like a stronger base than Diego Pacheco over the course of this fight. So while Pacheco was able to get the weird unanimous decision win, you kind of like seen him kind of like not really gain momentum as far as like him being a contender there in the super middweight division down the line. But that still doesn't mean that I don't want to see Diego Pacheco there getting in the ring. What was it, against the so-called or what he claims to be the chosen one, Edgar Berlanga, I still want to see that fight there at super middleweight. I still want to see Diego Pacheco against Berlanga at super middleweight. There, man. Pacho Academic. Anything else you've seen there from Pacheco?
Yeah. So what's his name? The other guy that's not named Pacheco.
Yeah.
He slowed the fight down, and he kept it at the pace that he wanted. And then he kind of like sprung on him, whenever he wanted to throw shots. And he almost hit Pacheco at will with the left hand whenever he sort of threw it. Mm-hmm. And it's because he lulled him to sleep, and then he threw his little, pounce counter. It wasn't even counters a lot of times. It was just like, it just showed up. And then he hit him with them shots. And then this to me shows that Pacheco is very beatable if you have the right style and if you have better endurance. This guy with a little bit more endurance could have won the fight, and it would have been a fight where he sort of putting a prevent defense and then throwing a few shots himself. So to me, yeah, Pacheco, off that performance, I wouldn't say I'm very high on him. Okay. Because what's his name is a guy that to me that looked like he should be getting knocked out. I ain't trying to be funny, like he decent. Obviously, you can tell he's smart, but the wrong person, which I got to think about the weight class, would knock him out because he don't throw enough punches. Yeah, he sort of slippery. He was slippery for Pacheco, but I don't know. It was just something about him, like just the slowness of the way he sort of got away from shots. It wasn't he fought like a older man in a sense. Maybe he was an older man. But young guys get these older guys out of there. And I wouldn't say his power was just that devastating to where he was like hurting him because he hit Pacheco clean a couple times. Yeah, it just shows me that Pacheco, to his level, probably ain't that great, but it would be nice to see him fight Berlanga because Berlanga is flawed enough to where that fight would be a good fight. And, you kind of see where it would go between those two.
Now, the thing with Sean McCollum, he came into the fight with 15 wins. He was undefeated with 15 wins. Seven of those wins were by way of knockout. But he was there 7 years senior of Diego Pacheco. So, yeah, you have Pacheco there at 23. I didn't know. I didn't know Pacheco was like at 6'4". I thought he was like at 6'2" or something like that. But he's at 6'4".
I mean, he has some long arms, and I mean, he used his reach a little bit, and when it slowed down, the things got closer. But even then, he was winning on the inside early, and then he just wasn't able to like let his hands go. And then Pacheco started letting his hands go, which I don't see why he wasn't doing that earlier. Well, he wasn't doing it earlier because he kept getting caught with that left hook. But yeah.
Yep.
It just shows me that I'm not very high on Pacheco.
Pacheco, yeah. And it kind of like, it took away like some of the momentum that Pacheco had from his previous fight against Caceres, back last November. Like he was able to get, a good stoppage win there and kind of like work to get a win over a guy in Caceres that was, kind of like, we had like some good experience, behind him. But then, here against McCollum, it almost like seemed a little bit different, even though he got this unanimous decision win. You kind of like seen points where they were like things where he was like missing some stuff. So I don't know, man.
I mean, this first part of this comment is real.
Yeah, like especially that first fight that Joshua had against Usyk. Yeah, he said he must learn to be more assertive if he hopes to succeed at 168. No thanks to David the Trunk. Oh man. Anybody who fights behind an intelligent jab will pick apart and stop Pacheco. Yeah, I mean they could, most definitely could. And the thing about it was, on his own broadcast, they were like kind of talking about Pacheco like facing Berlanga, saying, well, Pacheco was saying like, oh, well, he's ready for like a Berlanga or a Jaime Munguia or somebody like that. But Jaime Munguia, I think, has like a little bit, like a good enough jab to kind of like really keep Pacheco at bay. So I don't know how he would kind of like fare against him.
I mean, Jaime Munguia will stop him.
Yeah. Now I would have something that would kind of like be if it can't be Berlanga, they're at 168. Let's see about Diego Pacheco against Christian and Billy there. Now, I mean, and Billy don't really like have that much of a jab, but he does have some power behind a lot of his punches. So
he gonna throw shots.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna throw shots. So if you ain't getting that jab right in front of him or anything like that, and he gets close enough to you, then he's gonna work you and break you down and all that type of stuff. So yeah, I think that would be another dangerous fight there for Pacheco. When I would like to see how he fares there against someone like a Christian and Billy there, who's also coming up the rankings there at 168. So yeah, I think those would be some good potential matchups out there.
Yeah, I gotta think about it because it was something that he wasn't doing, and I would just ask myself, what is he not doing that makes like the fight look like it's looking and makes him perform like he performed. It was something that he was missing, which I didn't think about it until now, like to think about what he actually was not doing, which would make him better. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe it's like something where he kind of puts more of his punches together, like throw more 4 or 5 punch combinations or something like that. Particularly if he was at a good enough distance. There, I don't know. Maybe I'll get in touch with Jose Benavidez Sr. And then see if I could follow up with him on what he thought about the performance there by Pacheco.
You know what? I think he used to getting hit and just taking shots. Like I think he used to somebody throwing a bunch of shots at him and him just holding his hands up and just weathering the storm in a sense. And now thinking about David Benavidez and him sparring David Benavidez landing 3-4 shots on him and him just having to take it. Like I can see that in the ring now.
Like he's almost like trying to what is it?
Like a sparring partner in a sense.
Like be tougher than his opponent because he's taking those shots there while working out with David Benavidez, I guess.
I don't think it's about being tougher. I think it's just a sparring partner mentality. Yeah. Where you just used to taking shots because the person, better in a sense and throwing shots, and you psychologically get used to that.
Yeah, you just get used to being the guy on the defense and not on the offense or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of like is it, man.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to Aunt McQueen on the YouTube there through Casual's Corner, man. Has that I think he's like responded to what he was saying, what Joe was saying in reference to Subriel Matias. But thanks for joining in here on YouTube. Big ups for everyone that's joining in live and on YouTube and on Twitter here for the Boxing Source podcast. Like I said, we have this every Sunday here live, and we also have the midweek report on Wednesday here. That's coming up. Let's see. Next up, man. We had like a few other fights that were on there. Galal Yafai getting a TKO win over Augustine Gato, and you had Mark Castro getting a unanimous decision win over Abraham Montoya and Eddie Hearn-Sachs. I mean, oops, I didn't say that. Strike that from the tape. Yeah, strike that from the tape. Y'all, some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, I would just say that. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. But all right, I'm gonna go with also what happened after the event. You had a little bit of a confrontation there with Clarissa Shields and Alicia Baumgardner. Clarissa Shields was there doing commentary for this event. I haven't like seen anybody like kind of like react to what she was doing on commentary, but I know some people were kind of like a little bit bothered that she was like rooting for Richardson Hitchins over the course of that particular fight. He's supposed to like be calling the fight down the middle. But yeah, she couldn't really hide that there during that fight. But afterwards, you had Clarissa Shields and Alicia Baumgardner going back and forth at it. Once again, they were face to face. For me, seeing all this going on and it's been happening over the past few months. I think it's fairly inevitable that the fight is going to take place. But my thing is, it's gonna have to happen around 147 pounds, around like 147. I just don't see Alicia Baumgardner going that far north over 147 in order to make this fight take place. That it just doesn't seem like it's going to be possible, especially with her being at like 5'6", 5'6", and where's Carissa at, like about 5'10" or something like that, So, but up to this point, that's probably the biggest fight that could be made in women's boxing at this point is Shields versus Baumgardner. Actually, Shields is 5'8". Listed at 5'8". Now she looks a little bit taller than like 5'8" though. But yeah, she's listed at 5'8". But those two going back and forth. I'm just seeing that as a fight that's going to end up happening. Eventually happening. I don't think there's any bout within those weight classes that could be anything close to this particular point. Like y'all could come up with some potential matchups. Maybe Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano rematch, maybe. But yeah, outside of that, I don't see any other fight in women's boxing that would be as big as this one. And the way that these two clash, and what is it like? Actually, they put the post up. What was it on like Instagram or something like that through the Zone Boxing or whatever it is, and it said like it already hit like 1 million views or something like that. So it's the buzz is picking up for those two fighters to get it on. It's just a matter of okay, if the fight's going to happen, like what weight class is it going to be at? So that's the thing I'm waiting on is like, are they going to be able to eventually work out a deal to where they agree on the weight and just have the fight take place. But in the meantime, you got Clarissa Shields. I think she still has the thing there with PFL going on, and with Alicia Baumgardner, they recently had a thing there for like a purse bid for her next title defense coming up. So she'll have another world title defense. She's still there at like 130 pounds, like super featherweight. Like you're gonna go from super featherweight and then jump 2 divisions plus to at least get to 147, and then Clarissa Shields wants you at 154. Yeah, that's crazy work though. That's crazy work. Anything you got any thing on it, Box Academic?
Yeah, I would say that Clarissa Shields is probably actually taking her more serious now, because when she referred to her, obviously she got in her face and they talking smack to each other, and she was pushing her hand out of the face or whatever. But then the thing that really make me think that she actually thinking about it, but she's not gonna shoot herself in the foot, is that she's like, well, if we fight, we're gonna fight at 160. She said something like that. She didn't say 154. I think she said 160. And essentially, she's saying that I ain't finna drain myself. If I fight you, I ain't finna drain myself. You gonna come up to me and I'm gonna beat you up, which is very likely probably what'll happen. If they fight at 160. And so she's taking her more serious. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what's her name, what she want to prove. And then she tried to be like, You know, especially you ain't gonna do nothing to me, especially since you off the steroids. You know, she said something like that too.
Hmm.
So you know, it's entertaining, but I don't know, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. It now 160. I thought like what Clarissa Shields was talking about was that I think she was trying to catch Baumgardner saying that she'll want to fight Clarissa Shields at 154. Because like in the past there were like multiple occasions where Baumgartner was saying like, hey, it's gonna have to be at like 147 or whatever it is because with Shields, yeah, she's been the world champion there on like I said undisputed champion in multiple weight classes there, particularly at 154 and of course at 160, and she's currently the undisputed champion there at 160. So the thing is like, hey, if you want to have the fight at 160 pounds, that's going to be a completely different thing there for Baumgartner to deal with. I already said like she already would have to go up like 2 or 3 weight classes plus, but to like kind of like gain 25 plus pounds, 20, 25 pounds to get to a level of middleweight, yeah, that's way off. That would be way off or way out there.
So with that being said, I don't know if the fight gonna happen because why would Clarissa drain herself unless she gets Saudi money, right? But
I mean that could be the possibility. That could be the possibility. But like I was saying before, like outside of a rematch between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, like what else out there would be the biggest fight in women's boxing? You know, that probably would be it. You know, and at least here in stateside, that's the one that's been getting the most buzz or the most talk or the most reactions is them two going at each other. So and it looks like at this point with what's been going on, particularly in that 160-pound division or whatever it is, or 154 for Clarissa Shields, like there really isn't that much out there for Shields, or at least from 154, because there was like one fighter there in Deja Green, that was out there 154 that some people were talking about that could be a future opponent there for Clarissa Shields, but she lost to Franchon Cruz, in the last fight, so that momentum kind of like went out the window. So everything else that's out there now, it's like, yeah, what other challenges does Clarissa Shields have at the very least in 160 pounds? There really isn't that much out there. So it's like she got to look for other challenges at maybe like 154, or seeing if anyone else could come up to face her. So that's the thing that they got on that, man. What we got, like there's stuff coming up next week. Of course, we got the Top Rank card that's coming up next week on the 13th, and then also the Pro Box TV. You're gonna have Angelo Leo going up against Eduardo Baez. I think that's supposed to be the main event there, and you got Dominic Valle versus Angel Vasquez. So that's Wednesday night on Pro Box TV, and then for ESPN and ESPN Plus, you got Jared Anderson versus Riyad Murray. There at heavyweight, you got Efe Ajagba versus Guido Vianello there at heavyweight. And you're going to have former world title contender Wilson Conceição going up against, Jose Ivan Ortiz there. So you're going to have a number of fights that'll be on the Top Rank card for ESPN and ESPN Plus. Also, Abdullah Mason is going to be, on that fight card as well. That's taking place in Corpus Christi, Texas. So that's the action that's coming up next week there for fans to look forward to. Now, the other thing that I wanted to get on or touch on is, of course, April 20th, you have Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia. We've had like a couple of interviews that taking place there when it comes to what was it, Devin Haney. think he was on Twitter Spaces there with I think it's Remy on Twitter. He was there also with his father there, Bill Haney. They were like talking about a couple of tidbits that were going on or that's happening there in reference to the fight. That he said that they're taking the shorter in the purse there, so it would be like 60-40 in favor of Ryan Garcia for this upcoming fight on April 20th. So it's almost like, he's, they're saying like he's doing the things, what it takes to, make these fights happen or make these big fights happen or whatever it is.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, I thought it was interesting as well, given, that, of course, Devin Haney has the accomplishments. He was able to become, undisputed there at 135. He has the, key win over Vasyl Lomachenko. He was, the one that kind of like hosted the bout there over in the San Francisco area against Regis Prograis. So it's like, okay, yeah, I've done all that, but it looks like they kind of like say, hey, Ryan Garcia kind of like brings this type of a crowd or brings audience to where it kind of like increases his value, so to speak. Or I don't know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, because just looking at what's going on, and I'm just be front with it. At least until up to a couple of days ago, the thing for the box office for this fight card, it's not looking on too hot. Like if y'all could go over to thing for the tickets, man, and a lot of them are still available. And this is not like just saying it's not like resale or anything like that, but it kind of like attests to the initial reaction to this fight being at the Barclays and saying like, why is it over at the Barclays Center for two guys that are basically West Coast based to have a fight there over in the East Coast, and I guess they were trying to test the waters, so to speak, there in New York City or the New York City area. But as of right now, like the tickets aren't moving, and here we are 2 weeks away. We're 2 weeks away from the fight, and at least from what I was seeing, it was almost like what I say, like more than 60% of the tickets available for it, maybe even more than that. Like I couldn't really see like many sections, particularly like in the 100 section or the 100 level, where like a bunch of seats were still available in the 100 level. Now, and I'm not even talking about the full level seats, but I'm talking about like 100 level where the majority of the seats are for the Barclays Center. So maybe right now they probably have some more tickets that's being copped up or something like that. But yeah, as of like a few days ago, it wasn't to me it was just looking all too good as far as like the overall ticket sales. So I don't know if it's more about fans not really that excited for the main event, or maybe fans in this particular area not excited. I'm talking about the East Coast, that they're not that excited for the main event, or is it something where it's like maybe it's a location issue? I don't know, but
Unless there's an act from the guys, as Anthony Joshua would say, everybody know the outcome of this fight. Well, they don't know how the outcome will happen, but they know the outcome.
right, they're leaning towards like Devin Haney being a supreme favorite in this, and really just doing the number on Ryan Garcia. But even with that expectation, though, I think it's more well that's part of it, but also I think it being in the East Coast, like booking like this, it's been like the first time in a while since Golden Boy Promotions had a fight card, or at least a fight card of this magnitude over in New York City. They have a majority of their fights over in the West Coast, whether it's like Los Angeles, Las Vegas, or something like that. But just putting it over here on the East Coast was really really interesting there, particularly on both sides, because you really haven't seen either one of those fighters like kind of like build an audience, so to speak, around this around the East Side or in the East Coast of the U.S. So it's like, okay, were they just trying to do something brand new and then seeing how it would go? I don't know, but sometimes if you see something that works, you wanna continue to do what works. And the thing with Devin Haney, having a good amount of his fights over in the West Coast, whether it's like Las Vegas or, like he had in San Francisco or something like that. And then you have Ryan Garcia. I mean, Ryan Garcia had, fights in Las Vegas and California, and what was his recent fight over in Texas, I think it was. So why try to have this fight be over in the East Coast if you don't have like any other, previous like event from either fighter that had like a good showing or a good attendance, that you could build off of. And so, like for me, I just felt it was strange to have this fight, be over the Barclays Center. But like I was saying, I gotta see like what the update is as far as like ticket sales are concerned. I'm not sure if I could check on the Ticketmaster joint here right now, but we'll see. And they also, what was it? They also had the undercard that was recently announced. I'm going to see if I could pull up that undercard because a lot of people were saying like that undercard didn't look all too hot either. That they were like these matchups just seem like absolute mismatches there. Going into the main event. So yeah, I have to. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I could pull it up here because I had the joint out here somewhere where they kind of like had the co-featured bouts and all this other type of stuff, and some people are just not really feeling it at all. They have what was it? Arnold Barbosa Jr. versus Sean McComb as the co-featured bout there, where Barbosa would have like his first. I think that's his first bout under Golden Boy Promotions. So he's going up against Sean McComb. Not that many people know about who Sean McComb is. They got Beck the Bully, Beck Malakuziev against Pierre de Bombi. And they got like John Scrappy Ramirez defending, going up against David Jimenez. And then Charles Cromwell is going to be on the card against Nathaniel Gallimore. Like Cromwell and Gallimore, some people have probably heard of, but a number of these other fighters or these opponents that none of these A-side fighters have, like not that many fight fans have really like heard of these guys. So it's kind of like a bad little situation there, where maybe fight fans aren't all too psyched about the undercard, maybe. So yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I was gonna see if I could go back to the joint where I could find let's see if I could find the thing for the tickets, but I just don't see that many tickets moving out there, man. So I don't know how that's gonna fare, but yeah, it's looking like what is it? Yeah, like over 100 tickets plus are like available in a lot of these sections that they got out here, man. So yeah, it's I don't know. They might have to see about really seeing if we're gonna get like a lot of late sales that'll come in to try to recoup. But I know that there's like some fans of a certain side and the fans of another side saying like maybe they were trying to say like, oh, we could get this much ticket sales or this much revenue out of this fight coming out of the Barclays Center, and that it will outsell something. I'm like, well, yeah, that's not quite working on too hot, So like I said before, you might as well stick to what works and just build off of that. You don't need to kind of like go somewhere where you haven't been before to try to prove a point. That's just my thing on it. Just you don't need to go somewhere else to try to prove a point. Just make the fight, put it in a place where it's going to be successful as far as like people being interested in going into the fight and just roll with that. No need to try something new if you're not all too sure that it's going to be successful enough for you to gain or get a good amount of revenue from it. So that was my take on that, man. What I'm trying to see, like, what else is happening, what's going down. Really don't see that, like, that much else that's happening there in the boxing scene all too much. Just working on getting a couple more interviews scheduled for next week. I had to push back scheduled interview there with Elijah Pierce. So hopefully we'll get him secured for next week, and then also with Haven Brady Jr. Want to see if I can catch up with him after his win that happened on Overtime Boxing some time back as well. So want to get in touch with those two fighters at the very least here on the Boxing Source. And if there's like anyone, there's like any other young fighters or any other fighters that y'all want me to see if we can catch up with. I know that I've had a few requests for Gary Antoine Russell to see what's going on with him. Haven't like heard back from his camp as of yet, because a lot of people are seeing, like, they want to see what's next for Gary Antoine Russell. I mean, we're talking about the super lightweight division and all the action that's happened in the super lightweight division, and he's there, a young fighter, undefeated there on 140 pounds, and he hasn't had a fight since the Kent Cruz fight last year. So you want to see if we could build on the momentum of that, and kind of like say that he's another one of those young contenders there at 140 pounds. So we got to see what's next for Gary Antoine Russell. But yeah, outside of that, that's mainly what I got here for this Boxing Source podcast. But big ups for everybody that's listening live on YouTube and X. Like I said, you go ahead and share this particular podcast. Like I said, we have it every Sunday night here. We also have the midweek report on Wednesdays. That is, usually it's exclusive to YouTube, but we'll see about if we add it to Twitter as well. Therefore, fight fans on Twitter to be able to watch live and everything like that. But that's mainly what I got here on this end, man. Boxing Academic, you got anything else to add?
Not for me.
All right, gotcha. So that's it here for the April 7th, 2024 edition of the Boxing Source podcast. Once again, I thank all of y'all for listening in live. We appreciate the support here on the Boxing Source. And like I say, at the end of every show, folks, when the boxing is hitting, I can hit, not to stand and trade. On that note, I'm out, y'all. Talk to y'all later.